The diplomatic quarters aboard the Terran Horizon hummed with the gentle thrum of the ship's engines as Leo Martinez stared at the small figure standing before him, her crystalline blue skin shimmering under the ambient lighting. Commander Anya of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet stood barely 4 feet tall, yet her presence filled the entire room with an authority that made seasoned admirals nervous. "I'm sorry, what?" Leo managed to croak out, his coffee mug suspended halfway to his lips. Anya's large violet eyes blinked once, twice, in that peculiar way her species did when dealing with what they considered obvious facts. Her delicate, 3-fingered hands clasped behind her back as she stood at perfect military attention, her ornate commander's uniform glittering with medals that represented victories Leo couldn't even pronounce. According to Terran Zephyrian Treaty Article 7, subsection 12, paragraph 4, she stated in her melodious voice that somehow carried the weight of iron, "Our collaborative success in the Epsilon negotiations has automatically triggered the bonding clause. We are now legally married under both our civilization's laws." Leo set down his coffee before he dropped it. He'd been Earth's lead xenoanthropologist for 5 years, had studied 17 different alien cultures, and had even written the handbook on interspecies diplomatic protocols. Nowhere in his research had he encountered anything like this. "Commander Anya," he began carefully, using the formal address despite the 3 months they'd spent working side by side to prevent an intergalactic war, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. The bonding clause was meant for diplomatic partners who achieve a Grade A resolution to a Class 5 conflict," Anya interrupted, her antennae twitching with what Leo had learned to recognize as amusement. "Which we did. The Epsilon factions have signed a 100-year peace accord because of our work. By both our people's laws, we have been bonded." Leo ran his hand through his dark hair, a gesture Anya had observed him do exactly 47 times during their negotiations. She'd catalogued all his mannerisms, just as he'd studied hers. It was part of what made them such an effective team, their ability to read each other across the vast divide of species and culture. "But I never agreed to." "Did you read the treaty, Leo?" Anya asked, and there was something softer in her voice now, something less commander and more her. He had every word, multiple times, but he'd been so focused on the big picture, preventing a war that would have consumed 12-star systems, that he'd glossed over what seemed like ceremonial fine print. "The clause exists," Anya continued, moving closer, her boots making almost no sound on the metal floor despite their weight, "because among my people trust is sacred. When 2 beings can bridge the gap between worlds, speak for their peoples, and bring peace where there was only chaos, that is the highest form of compatibility. That is what we call Kethemer, soulbending." "But we're from different species," Leo protested weakly. "Different worlds, I'm nearly twice your height, our biologies are completely compatible enough," Anya said firmly. "Our medical teams confirmed it. We can coexist, share space, build a life. Many successful bondings have been cross-species. The Zephyrian Empire has thrived on such unions for 10,000 years." Leo looked down at the tiny alien commander who had somehow, impossibly, become the most important person in his life over the past 3 months. They'd spent countless hours in negotiation chambers, translating not just languages but entire worldviews. They'd shared meals, strange combinations of Earth and Zephyrian cuisine that neither of their peoples thought possible. They'd stayed up through ship nights, debating philosophy and strategy, finding common ground where none should exist. And somewhere in all of that, Leo realized with a start, he'd stopped seeing her as just an alien. He saw Anya, brilliant, stubborn, compassionate, fierce. The way she tilted her head when processing complex problems, the soft glow her skin emitted when she was pleased, the absolute conviction in her voice when she spoke about protecting her people. "You could have told me," he said quietly, "before we signed." Anya's antennae drooped slightly, disappointment. "Would you have signed if you'd known?" The treaty was more important then. Exactly, she cut him off. You would have signed anyway, because you're a good man, Leo Martinez, because you put the lives of billions above your own comfort. It's one of the many reasons the treaty recognizes us as compatible. And if I refuse to honor this, bonding. Something flickered across Anya's expressive features, hurt, quickly masked. Then you refuse. I am a commander of the Imperial fleet, not a tyrant, but the treaty will stand. We will simply be, legally bonded but separate. Many choose such arrangements. The ship's intercom chimed, announcing the evening meal cycle. Neither of them moved. Why do you want this? Leo asked, and his voice was barely a whisper. Anya looked up at him, and for the first time since he'd known her, she seemed vulnerable. Small, yes, but more than that, open in a way that went against every instinct of a military commander. Because in 3 months, you learned our language not from databases, but by listening to me speak. Because you remember that I dislike the flavor of synthetic proteins and always ensure real food is available. Because when the Epsilon delegates insulted my stature, you stood from the negotiation table and gave a 20-minute speech on why physical size has no correlation to capability or worth, and you cited 15 peer-reviewed studies from 7 different civilizations. She took a breath, her small chest rising and falling. Because when I couldn't sleep after the Viridian delegation's massacre threat, you sat with me for 6 hours, teaching me Earth meditation techniques and telling me stories about your grandmother's garden. Because you see me, Leo, not the commander, not the alien, me. Leo felt something crack open in his chest. How had he been so blind? Every gesture, every kindness had been building to this. Not a political arrangement, but something real, something that defied the boundaries of species and space. You're right, he said slowly. I would have signed anyway, not because of duty, but because I couldn't imagine letting you face those negotiations alone. Because somewhere between debating war strategies and sharing horrible ship coffee, you became. You're bonded, Anya supplied, hope making her voice light. My friend, Leo corrected, but smiled. And maybe something more. If you're patient with a confused human who just realized his diplomatic partner is apparently his wife. Anya's entire body brightened, her skin taking on an iridescent quality that Leo had only seen once before, when they'd gotten the peace treaty signed. Patience is a virtue my people value highly. I can wait while you adjust to the idea. But you said, Leo gestured awkwardly at the space between them, touch me, I'm already your wife. That sounded pretty impatient. The small commander's laugh was like crystal chimes. That was me being forward by Zephyrian standards. Traditionally, I should have waited cycles before even mentioning our bonding, letting you discover it naturally through proper channels. But I've learned that humans appreciate directness. We do, Leo agreed, then hesitantly extended his hand, a gesture he'd taught her during their first week together. So, Commander Anya, my apparently legally bonded wife from beyond the stars, would you like to have dinner with me? As a first official non-negotiation-related activity. Anya's 3-fingered hand slipped into his, warm and solid despite its size. I thought you'd never ask, husband. As they walked toward the mess hall, Leo couldn't help but marvel at how the universe worked. He'd come to space seeking to understand alien civilizations, to bridge divides and prevent conflicts. He'd never imagined he'd find someone who understood him just as deeply, someone who saw past species and size and every difference to recognize the person underneath. For what it's worth, Leo said as they navigated the corridor, receiving curious glances from crew members. If I'd known about the bonding clause, I probably would have signed faster. Anya's answering glow could have powered a small star. Behind them, the Terran horizon continued its journey through space, carrying aboard it proof that sometimes the greatest diplomatic achievements weren't treaties or accords. They were the connections forged between two beings brave enough to reach across the cosmos and simply understand each other. And if the universe was kind, there would be many more such connections to come. The end.